Hey everybody, welcome back to another dicondissectional production hosted by Deathstroke9. Today, hopefully, we are going to be attempting to react to the Eagles' Hotel California live at Capitol Center in 1977. Now I have already heard this song before. I know this song. I know this group. I really couldn't name probably more than 2 or 3 songs by them. But I like this song. And normally Don Henley blocks everything, pretty much. So the majority of times you can't make a reaction to songs by the Eagles, which is why I've never really done them on the channel. Yeah, recently I found out that it looks like maybe some live versions are okay to react to. I'm not sure. I've never heard a live version of any of these songs, so if that's the case, then hey, we've got some live material to look at. But I also think that this song has interesting lyrics. I'm not sure what they mean, so we're gonna take a look at that as well at the end of the video. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing if you enjoy these types of videos. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. I hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy. Let's get into this. Hotel California. Live. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. This song is so incredibly classic. Holy cow. Wow. Such a great song. Let's keep going.
Rising up through the air. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. My head grew heavy and my sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell, and I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. Then she lit up a candle and she showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. There's plenty of room at the Hotel California. Any time of year, you can find it here. Her mind is differently twisted.
I always thought the song was kind of eerie sounding. Does anyone else think that? Like the overall feeling of it feels like it's groovy, but also keeps going into these like minor chords that make me think that it's kind of I don't know, just eerie sounding. Anyway, sorry for pausing it so much. I'm just again afraid that this might end up getting blocked. Whoops, hit the mute button on accident.
You can find it here. Her mind is differently twisted. She got the Mercedes Benz. She got a lot of pretty, pretty boys that she calls friends. How they dance in the courtyard. pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Turn that up, might as well go. Alrighty then. This is so cool. Yeah, love the dueling guitars. Yes, 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 yes. That was awesome. And that solo is just so, specifically that like one part of it, the that feels very iconic to me. I've heard this song quite a few times. Yeah. I actually have no idea what it's about. I remember if it was my mom or my dad who once, like, I asked what it was about, and they said it's like about drugs, I think. Or it's like yeah, there you go. It's speculated that it could be. One of the most mysterious and widely speculated songs in rock history, Hotel California is best described in the words of its creators. As Don Henley explained in the Daily Mail in 2007, some of the wilder interpretations of that song have been amazing. It was about the excesses of American culture and certain girls we knew, but it was also about the uneasy balance between art and commerce. Though the annotations to the left do their best to decipher Henley and Company's words, it is important to keep in mind a quote from Eagles member Glenn Frey. Vagary is the primary tool of songwriters. In response to the insinuation that the first working title of the song was Mexican Reggae, Dunfelder laughed and responded, "Yep, that's right, it wasn't really a title. When I first wrote all the music for it, I put it in a cassette with about 16 or 17 other song ideas. Another one was what later became Victim of Love, and gave copies of the cassette to Joe Walsh, John Henley, Glenn Frey, and Randy Meisner. At the time, I said, if there's anything on this cassette you'd like to work on, call me and let me know. And so Henley said, I like that song that sounds like a Mexican reggae. And that was the description of what it drew in his mind. And later we started talking about it, and he came up with a framework lyrically of the hotel being a physical structure called the Hotel California, which there was no real Hotel California other than the one that's down on Sunset here. The Beverly Hills Hotel is the artwork on the front of the cover. Okay. During the 58th Grammys in February 2016, the Eagles were presented with their Grammy from 1977 for Album of the Year because they didn't attend the Grammys in 77. This took place during a commercial break just after they and Jackson Browne just finished a tribute to Glenn Frey. Rest in peace. Don Henley pushed back against the common assumptions that the song is about drug addiction or Satan worship. We were all middle-class kids from the Midwest. Hotel California was our interpretation of the high life in Los Angeles. What did Don mean by the woman in the song being Tiffany Twisted? Means the woman is obsessed by money and power. Tiffany is a world-famous jewelry company. Okay. So let's take a look. There's stuff for every single line in here. On a dark desert highway. Cool. Yeah, this song, okay. This song musically is incredible and is also such a evocative song. Like I said, feels kind of eerie. The entire thing evokes so many mental images with all of these very vivid descriptions throughout the entire song. And it just feels so powerful. It also feels kind of lonely as well. It feels like we're in a lonely, mysterious location with a bunch of other strange travelers from the road, you know? And we're all here. Some, what does he say? Some dance to remember, some dance to forget, or is it drink to remember, drink to forget? I can't find it. Some dance to remember. Yeah. Some dance to forget. All right. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising up through the air. Colitas literally means little tails in Spanish. Desert and Mission Bell are all evocative of deserts and the area's Spanish influences. Dunfelder described the line in an interview. The colitas is a plant that grows in the desert that blooms at night, has this kind of pungent, almost funky smell. Don Henley came up with a lot of lyrics for that song. When we try to write lyrics that touch multiple senses, things you can taste, hear, see, and smell. That's interesting. That was a lesson I had to learn for running Dungeons and Dragons to describe things using as many senses as possible. It also came up multiple times in creative writing courses, so yeah. The word is also widely rumored to be Mexican slang for marijuana, but none of the band members have addressed this interpretation. Up ahead in the distance, I saw a shimmering light. There is a widespread but false perception that the song is about heroin addiction. He is referring to the allure of drugs, although in the context of the song it can also be interpreted as the allure of the Hollywood music industry. Drugs, money, women, etc. drawing him in with its false promises of happiness through sensual pursuits. This introduces the trope of the weary traveler stumbling on to something illusory or supernatural. And yeah, that's what the song is built off of so perfectly. A wanderer succumbing to a mirage. Don Felder once described the scenario. All of us kind of drove into LA at night. Nobody was from California. And if you drive into LA at night, you can just see this glow on the horizon of lights. And the images that start running through your head of Hollywood and of all the dreams that you have. My head grew heavy. My sight grew dim. I had to stop for the night. The wordplay describes the combined, almost hypnotic or intoxicating effects of the cool wind, warm smell, shimmering light from the previous line, much more than any literal falling asleep at the wheel. The cool wind may have been pleasant, but he's ready for a change of pace. He was tired of what he was doing. Eye is the window to the soul and guides a person down the road. When the sight grows dim, it suggests an opening to potential trouble. And there she stood in the doorway, almost like she appeared, right? Like a specter in the night. She could be many things: an actual woman, a bad decision, his past, his future. Basically, though the bottom line is, she is bad news that looks very good. I heard the mission bell. He may have been referring to one of California's oldest inland missions. Mission or church bells typically ring for some type of church function. Here it can also serve as a divine warning from above, a call to escape, a contrast to the mysterious woman in the doorway. However, in this dysfunctional/confusing scene, the bell has questionable efficiency. I think that's what that's efficacy? Efficiency, whatever. And is almost part of the force drawing him into the hotel, leaving listeners to wonder whether it's warning or luring him. And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven, or this could be hell. The hedonistic Hollywood life, specifically in the music industry, can often feel like both heaven and hell. Henley outlines the ups and downs of Hollywood, and more generally, life in its entirety. Notice how this religious imagery comes right after the knell of the mission bell. That is interesting. Then she lit up a candle, and she showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say. He doesn't even know. It's like ghostly echoes on the air coming to him, saying, "Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place." Yeah. Sounds like it's just about LA and celebrity culture, really. Or not celebrity culture, but like the Hollywood culture, I guess. The candle is probably referring to a cigarette. She showed me the way means this girl is leading him into the life of drugs, sex, and hedonism. Or the narrator is painting the woman as some kind of savior who leads him both into and out of darkness. These voices are the allure and temptation of making music and living the life that accompanies it in California, the hotbed of the entertainment industry. Welcome to the Hotel California. The Hotel California likely represents memories, and in this case, those specific to Don Henley and the Eagles as they started making a name for themselves in music. Hotel California is that safe heaven of nostalgia and guilt, where you can avoid the future and the present by reliving the past. People say, where is the Hotel California? A lot of places say they're the one. There is no one. It was the entirety of LA. Joe Walsh on the Sonic Highways HBO special. In the 1980s, some Christian evangelists, is that what I just said? Evangelists alleged that the Hotel California referred to a San Francisco hotel purchased by Anton LaVey. Okay, interesting. Man, the connections that some of these people make to try to attack things. It's crazy. All right, such a lovely place. Everyone assumes that the music industry is fantastic. It's almost sarcastic when he says such a lovely place once you make it, but in reality there are many negative aspects that can lure you in. Drugs, alcohol, women, among other vices. Such a lovely place is used symbolic of the escapism that comes along with it all. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. Any time of year you can find it here. Plenty of room means there's no barrier to the degenerate hedonistic lifestyle. You can start any time, no waiting. A common complaint of locavore hippies, is that with commercial refrigeration, it's possible to have any fruit or vegetable any time of year, thereby taking all the seasonality/happiness out of life. What? Welcome to the Whole Foods California. This speaks on the degeneracy that follows the ability to have the world at one's fingertips. Okay. That's kind of funny. Her mind is Tiffany Twisted. She's got the Mercedes-Benz. Tiffany Twisted is a reference to the Tiffany's jewelry shop. He's referring to a wealthy, bejeweled, and glamorous woman who likes the bow around the box, has her mind tied up in materialism of a life of luxury. And it's kind of leading him into it, too. Pun on Mercedes-Benz, possibly a reference to the Janis Joplin song Mercedes-Benz. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. Worked hard all my lifetime, no help from my friends. So Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? The pronunciation of Benz as Benz plays into the twisted of the line's first half. The Benz is another name for decompression sickness. Oh, the Benz. I think that's a Radiohead album. Which happens when ascending too fast when driving. A metaphor for her mental state, or implying that as he enters deeper into the hotel, he goes deeper into hell. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. She's got lots of pretty, pretty boys that she calls friends. How they dance in the courtyard. Sweet summer sweat. This verse could refer to the woman in the first verse or another guest of the hotel. The listener gets the idea that she is a wealthy woman in the line above. However, she's past her prime. This is obvious because her various sexual partners are referred to as boys, indicating a large age difference. Maybe they don't even exist. Maybe she's just thinking of the girl she used to be. Who knows? It's the Hotel California. Anything goes. The way pretty is overly enunciated leads one to believe that her friends are homosexual. The adjective pretty is almost used in a derogatory way. Okay. This could also refer to the casual sex lifestyle. She has friends, but not a real relationship because they're just faking love. This person says it's kind of a stretch to bring homosexuality into it at all, based just on the word pretty. Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's continue. Some dance to remember, some dance to forget. Love that line. Many people dance to remember who they were or when they were youthful or their special events, while others dance to forget their troubles. It's a state of mind that the Hotel California gives rise to. We all dance for different reasons. So I called up the captain. Please bring me my wine. He said, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. I just realized they're talking about wine. Okay, so when I've heard this song before, whenever he says we haven't had that spirit here since 1969, I thought that meant we haven't had that same feeling since this time period. You know, that was the end of an era for us, and now it's like things are changing. I did not think of it as like a spirit, a literal, yeah, okay. Spirit, highly distilled liquor. Wine is not a spirit. So spirit is here either for meaning, is here for other meaning, a mood or feeling. I was right. Holy cow. Okay. Or at least, you know, just an interpretation. But still, when asked about this wine slash spirit discrepancy in a 2009 interview with John Soder, Henley responded, thanks for the tutorial. Okay. And no, you're not the first to bring this to my attention. You're not the first. Wow. Okay. He says, no, you're not the first to bring this to my attention, and you're not the first to completely misinterpret the lyric and miss the metaphor. Believe me, I've consumed enough alcoholic beverages in my lifetime to know what they're made of and what the proper, wording for them is. But that line in the song has little or nothing to do with alcoholic beverages. It's a socio-political statement. My only regret would be having to explain it in detail to you, which would defeat the purpose of using literary devices in songwriting and lower the discussion to some silly and irrelevant argument about chemical processes. I'm wondering what the guy asked that brought this type of, phrasing to the table. You're not the first to completely misinterpret the lyric and miss the metaphor. My only regret in life would be having to explain it to you in detail, which would, I don't know. Maybe I'm just attaching that type of phrasing to it in my head, but it sounds like super pissed off at the very least. So I don't know. Anyway, maybe he's just been asked it a lot. Anyway, so what happened in 1969? A lot. 1969, and in particular the excessive Woodstock Festival and the horrific Altamont Music Festival is often considered the year when the brief reign of social change in the music business ended and hedonism and cynicism took its ascent. It's also the year that the Catholic Church reorganized its Mass to give the common worshippers the same wine as the priests. It's also the year that the Satanic Bible was published. In short, 1969 is a great shorthand when, like Don Henley, you prefer your lyrics to be a little cryptic. Yeah. All those voices are calling from far away, wake you up in the middle of the night just to hear them say. The other guests are always on his mind, haunting him. In other words, when he's left the hotel, it's luring him back, ending the second verse on the same note where the first verse ended. I thought I heard them say, just to hear them say, yeah. Continuing the imagery of almost a prison, which later turns out to be a prison of vice. Voices in the middle of the night are the other people staying there, but could also be the realization that you have cravings that you can't escape. They wake you up in the middle of the night. With the transition from I thought I heard to I heard them thought to I Hear Them Say, it becomes clear that he tried to forget his experiences, but they keep haunting him, bugging him to return. Welcome to the Hotel California, such a lovely place. They're living it up at the Hotel California. What a nice surprise. Bring your alibis. The excess of American life can come in the form of drugs, prostitution, and many other illegal vices. If you engage in such debasement, you better have a story to cover your tracks and make sure you don't fall too deep into the materialistic lifestyle of rock and roll. The lifestyle had a huge effect on the Eagles, prompting them to write hits like Life in the Fast Lane and Life's Been Good. This person says, Life's Been Good was not written by the Eagles, but by Joe Walsh. Okay. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. She said, we're all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. All right. Everything they do is being watched or captured. They do something, paparazzi photographs or records it, and they end up watching themselves on TV. Sleazy hotels often have mirrors on the ceiling. This may be a sexual innuendo or suggest that the Hotel California is cheap in the sense that it is non-permanent happiness. However, the mirrors just repeat your actions, much like the way you repeat your memories at Hotel California. Mirrors on the ceiling. Huh, interesting. Pink champagne on ice refers to the sugar coating of the terrible drugged life of the Hotel California. The people are literally drinking from rosy-hued glasses. The overarching theme of Hotel California is the hedonism and self-destructiveness of the Hollywood music industry. This line is referring how those stuck in the destructive cycle of fame and fortune are prisoners of their own choices and actions in the music industry. This line is key to the imagery of the whole song. The Hotel California, with all its pleasures, is really a prison that people are stuck in because of their own devices, or vices. One definition of device is a crafty scheme, a trick, so people living there have tricked themselves into living in a prison. The climax. There is an uncanny spookiness that goes with these lyrics. Everyone is subject to the master. It's something that can't be refused. Master, chamber, and feast are all words associated with high class. This may represent an occasion of decadence with high-powered figures. The particular wording suggests that attendees may have been the main course for the beast described in the next lyric. The line steely... Hey, it isn't that... Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's what I thought when I heard it just now. I had never thought that before, but that time listening to it, I thought of Steely Dan when they said Steely. And this line, Steely adjective, is a shout-out to Steely Dan. That's so cool. They stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the piece, was a little post-it back to Steely Dan. Apparently, Walter Becker's girlfriend loved the Eagles and she played them all the time. I think it drove him nuts. Though the story goes they were having a fight one day, and that was the genesis of the line. Turn up the Eagles, the neighbors are listening, in everything you did. From Steely Dan's The Royal Scam album. Turn up the Eagles, the neighbors are listening. That is awesome. Holy cow. All right. Love reading this stuff. All right. During the writing of Hotel California, we decided to volley. We wanted to allude to Steely Dan rather than mentioning them outright. So Dan got changed to knives, which is, a penile metaphor. Stabbing, thrusting, etc. Okay. Steely Dan were known for lyrics that had rather bitter, cynical view of Hollywood and fame in general, as a glance at the words of showbiz kids will show you, which we have reacted to before. Show business kids making movies of themselves, they don't give a F about anybody else. Yeah, that was the first Steely Dan song, I think, that had the F word in it, that I heard. Steely Dan and the Eagles also shared the same manager. Steely Knife also conjures up thoughts of using a razor blade to chop up cocaine. Continuing with the drug reference, Steely knives could be needles to inject heroin. Other drugs, especially opioids, would fit in well. It's reasonable to assume Henley was aware of the multiple ways to interpret this, but heroin and needles are a well-known combination. The drug is so terribly addictive that people who use it come back to it again and again and have an extremely difficult time kicking the habit. His eyes are open to the horrors that take place in the Hotel California. He's running away from the memories and nostalgia so he can go on with normal, real life. It's an interesting juxtaposition to the beginning of the song where he's on the road trying to escape real life. This also implies a real terror resulting from witnessing the grand banquet. Yeah, this part is nuts. He's trying to find a way back towards self-actualization and realness, so to speak, away from the materialism and hedonistic culture of Hollywood music, and back towards who he truly is as a person. He may be looking for a marker from when the mysterious woman guided him through a dark corridor in the first verse. In the drug metaphor, this may refer to a bad trip where he wants to get out, or quitting drugs in general, the place I was before being sobriety. Relax, says the Nightman, we are programmed to receive. The image of the Nightman is that of an overnight guard, but he represents the part of the protagonist that wants to stay and continue partying. Society and human nature seem to say, relax, when there's a lot of pleasure to be had. This line asserts that the human psyche is programmed to enjoy receiving more than giving, and it's only natural for people to surrender to their desires. Alternatively, in biochemistry, cells of the body can communicate by binding chemical signals to a receptor on the cell. In this sense, the body is programmed to receive. When using drugs, these drugs attach to the receptors to cause a certain stimulation. Yeah. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. You can leave the hotel and go back to normal life seemingly unharmed, but it's still got a hold of you, and always will. This is a reference to the glamorous lifestyle and resonance of addiction. Technically, this prison of device is still a hotel. You can check yourself out, but the Nightman is going to tell you otherwise. The song's ending is left ambiguous. Does the protagonist make it out? Does he leave his vices and head back on his journey? Or does the Nightman keep him in the hotel? The answers aren't in the text, so his fate is still open when the song is over. It's also interesting to note that to check out can mean to die, possible double entendre that illustrates the dangers of the hedonistic lifestyle. The song ends with a long dual guitar solo by guitarists Don Felder and Joe Walsh. It is one of the Eagles' most famous guitar solos and is commonly considered one of their best, some might say the best guitar solo of all time. A sign of their perfectionism, the solo took 2 days to record and had to be done over several times before they got it right. When I wrote the ending, I recorded my guitar parts on a Les Paul, and it played Joe's answers on a Strat. I used a different amp so it sounded like a different guy, the way Joe might play it. Then I'd pick up my guitar to do the answer to that, so I emulated what the whole idea would be. When we were in the studio, Joe and I started jamming, and Don Henley said, No, stop, it's not right. I said, what do you mean it's not right? And he said, you gotta play it just like the demo. Only problem was I did that demo a year earlier, and I couldn't even remember what was on it. So I had to call my housekeeper in Malibu, who took the cassette, put it on a blaster, played it with the phone held up to the blaster. We recorded it. I had to sit in Miami and play exactly what was on the demo. Joe had to listen to the way I had emulated him, and he played something very close to that. It was close enough to the demo to make Don happy. That's an interesting story to how one of the greatest solos of all time was crafted. All right. This video was very long. Hopefully they let me post it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Absolutely classic track. Glad we got to look at the meaning behind the lyrics. I was told that it was probably about drugs, so it's interesting that now we are finding out it isn't. Thank you very much for joining. I will see you guys soon. Deathstroke 9 out. We are Legion, my friends. Let me know what else you'd like me to react to. Unfortunately, with the Eagles, it's kind of impossible to react to anything else by them, as far as I know. Unless maybe there are some other live songs or live versions of songs that I'm able to do. Who knows? We'll see.